Welcome to Backdoor Bills Talk. My name's @JDon'tFade, Jason Malloy on Twitter, and I'll be your host today and every day because I'm the host of this show. It's our inaugural episode today. A lot going on in Bills land. Specifically, the win over the Rams, of course, the Rams. The Rams, I mean, they were kind of rims the way they played. First half is interesting, right? We'll dive right into that. First, let me give you a little bit of introduction here. My name's @JDon'tFade. I do host a baseball podcast on this network as well, and a hockey podcast as the Warpath Crossover Pod and the Hot Corner Podcast, which also go live once. Well, they don't go live so much in the off season for hockey. However, we'll be going live pretty soon with that because the Sabres are going to be getting started back up. That's going to be exciting this year. A lot of exciting stuff going on in Buffalo. And for baseball, we're right in the thick of it right now, in the middle of a wild card race in both the AL and the NL. Of course, the AL is much more exciting with wild card races. The NL is pretty much run through the West as far as the wild card and who else is participating over in that division. But let's stick to football here. So Backdoor Bills Talk, again, @JDon'tFade. We're going to try and get a Twitter page up for Backdoor as well, if possible. Right now, we are running off Buffalo Sports Report, though, of course, and that's a great channel. So go ahead, subscribe, give us a follow, give us a like, share, and comment, of course. We want to see what your guys' thoughts are. And if you have any questions in the chat, of course, throw those in there as well, and we will try and get those answers as best we can. But down to business. Let's jump into the Bills game, and that was Thursday night, the first, well, I guess the inaugural podcast, inaugural game of the year for the NFL, in its 101st season, I believe. I remember last year the big thing was the 100th season. So I think we're in our 101st season now. September 8th, Bills did defeat, the mighty Bills did defeat the, I wouldn't call them lowly, but they played pretty lowly, the lowly Los Angeles defending Super Bowl champion Rams, 31-10. Yeah, great start for the Bills. So it started off in the first quarter. First quarter really started off in the first drive with a beautiful touchdown pass to Gabriel Davis, breakout star, in my opinion, someone who a lot of Bills fans and even people outside of the people in the fantasy world are looking into this year as being a very big breakout candidate and most likely going to be tearing down the walls this year and really taking over and solidifying his spot as that wide receiver 2 in that dangerous, high-powered Bills offense. Started out 7-0, beautiful touchdown pass, right? Then we get to the next drive, get the ball back, blah, 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 blah. Get to halftime. We'll skip to halftime because all the Bills had was a field goal at that point. There was a Cooper Kupp touchdown in there as well as another field goal. It did look like the Rams were almost going to take the lead before half. And then it looked like, okay, they're going to tie it. They did end up tying it 10-10. Go to the half. At that point, I was thinking, I thought this was going to be a tough matchup. Honestly, I had the Bills losing the game on a close game, 31-28. Technically, I said I didn't know who would win the game, but it'd be a game-ending field goal. It didn't happen that way, thankfully, on either side, regardless of Bills win or Bills loss. But 31-10 is how it did finish up. Coming out of half, another beautiful touchdown for the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen really involved in every way in all of those touchdowns, in some way or another, of course. At that point, we're sitting there at 17-10. It's looking like, okay, the game's still pretty close. This is the Rams offense. You really can't sleep on them. I mean, they can come back and score 21 points in one quarter if they get the ball enough times and their defense does its job, which the defense didn't do its job on Thursday night. But it's another story, which we'll dive into, of course, offense and defense for both the Rams and the Bills. Okay, then we go up. All right, it's looking like, all right, I'll take the ball back. All right, 17. Oh, it's 24-0. We get to 24-0. Or I'm sorry, 24-0. We get to, I'm losing my mind here. We get to 24-10. So it's 24-10 at that point. We're feeling much better. Okay, let's seal it away. 31. And then this is where I kind of had my first issue with the game, even being that it was a blowout, of course. We kind of let our foot off the gas a little bit, which is a tendency that Sean McDermott has shown to have. I don't want to say over the last couple of years, really since he's been here. They and obviously in the first season or two, the first season they're just trying to win games and get to the playoffs. The second season it was just trying to rebuild and see what you've got and what you need and introduce new guys to the new guys, young guys, old guys to the new system of what's going to be really what is trust the process with Coach McDermott. However, they did score points. They did get to 31-10. That is a blowout officially, officially and unofficially, I guess. However, I think we could have probably had it more like somewhere in the ballpark of 45-10. I only say that because a team like the Rams, or really any team, this is the National Football League, the best of the best in the entire world come together and play on teams. So, I mean, the guys can score points at any time. It doesn't really matter. Even some athletes are obviously much more superior than other athletes. Josh Allen at quarterback, Stephon Diggs at wide receiver. What I thought would have said was Jalen Ramsey at cornerback. He didn't look very good. But again, proves my point. He's going up against Stephon Diggs, one of the top receivers. Anybody's going against anybody. Anybody can win a one-on-one battle and make the play for their team, right? So I've always been of the mindset, and similar to how the New England Patriots, which you don't like them, of course, but how the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick have run their system is you kind of keep your foot in their throat and you score as many points as you can. If you got to run it up to 45, 52, 55, or even some of those Patriots, like they might have scored 50, 60 points in some games. I think against us, they scored 55, actually. It might have been 53. It was either 53, 55, 58. Either way, though, they scored a ton of points. And that's kind of what I've been of the of the school of thought that I've registered myself to as well is, do you run a risk of maybe giving away some of your playbook or some of your tendencies? Sure, but I think the W in that moment is much more efficient to take rather than taking the chance and maybe not having it. I mean, you can still have injuries and you can run the ball and have an injury. So I don't know. That's my first and really only issue. It's a blowout win, of course, but I would like to see us kind of put our foot on the throats of opponents more often and really solidify our spot as the winner there. And not for any kind of egotistical thing, just for the securing the win type of thing. Because like I said, 31-10 is a lot. 21 points is a lot, but to an offense like the Rams who can put up 21 points in a quarter, it's not all that much. So, yeah. Well, that's the Bills game. 31-10, Bills win. Can I jump into now the more of the specifics? Really, the number one specific that I saw, and the real thing that I guess was me more of a surprise, was Christian Bedford, rookie cornerback out of Villanova. I always want to say Villanova. What I mean is Villanova, though. So out of Villanova, 6th-round pick. Not the only cornerback we took in that draft. We did take multiple defensive backs and secondary personnel in general. The other cornerback that we took was Kyer Elam in the first round, and surprisingly, he didn't get the start. And I want to pull up his snap count real quick so we can take a peek at that, because I know that not only did the snap count come out for not snap count, but the statistics come out for Christian Bedford as far as like the basic tackles, passes defended, interceptions if he had any, of course, which he didn't, but interceptions. But they actually had the advanced stats come out, which is interesting because that shows like yardage, how many times they were targeted, how many receptions they gave up. What else does it show? Also, of course, yardage that's given up. Any touchdowns that they accredit against you, I guess, because I wouldn't say they're crediting for you. Touchdowns they accredit against you are up there as well. Just taking a peek here. I want to pull up Elam's stats too, because I actually didn't get a chance to look at Elam's yet. I was looking at Brentford's because I wanted to have him for the show here. But I didn't actually pull up Kyer Elam's yet. So, snap percentage. So, I want to say they both played special teams to an extent. Yeah, they both played special teams. So, Christian Bedford, we'll go over his numbers first, right? Actually, you know what? We're going to go over Elam's numbers first, because I haven't seen those yet. I want to see if this helps prove my point or disprove my point. So, 3 tackles for Kyer Elam. I'm sorry, 3 solo tackles, 3 combined tackles. So I'm guessing that's 4.5 tackles. It's not bad for not starting. Special team snaps, he played 16% of them, which is 3. He has 3 special. There was no punting. So another thing, 2 games in a row now. 2 games in the last 3 that you can say with obviously the Patriots game, no punts in a much more successful manner. because you're just scoring touchdown, you're getting points per drive. And then in this game, of course, no punts, more of a less successful manner only because of the fact that you didn't score points in every single drive. But still good, right? You don't feel the need to punt. And you're not put in a situation where it's like you're, aggressively not punting, where it's like, okay, why are they punting? And the commentators are making comments. And no, it just didn't happen, and we just noticed it. So, again, special team snaps, 3 for Kaiir Elam, first-round cornerback out of Florida. He's at 60% of the special team snaps. Defensive snaps, he played 30 snaps, and that was 45%. So you've got there, you can do the math. That would be about, they had about 70 defensive snaps then, it sounds like, and he played 30 of them, so 40%. It was more like 65-ish. 66 defensive snaps altogether for the team. He played 30 of them, so roughly half, 45%. Keep that number in mind with the 45%, because it can't just call it half in what we're trying to do here and comparing the two quarterbacks. Now, let's take a look at his advanced stats. So, advanced stats. 3 targets, 2 completions. But here's the thing. Here's the number to remember. This is what I was hoping it would look like. That's a 66%, 66.7, because it's 3, of course. 33 continued is technically 3 times that is 100. So 66% completion. Here's the thing. 3 targets, 2 completions, 13 yards. Okay, so 13 yards and 2 completions. That doesn't hurt you. I mean, that's maybe one of them was the first time was 3 yards. It's relevant to screen pass, So maybe he got beat on 1. I don't know. I didn't see one that he got beat on specifically, but 2 catches were made. They could have came late in the game for all I know, because it doesn't actually give you the situational advanced statistics, like what actual plays it was. I'm sure there's a way to look that up. I just don't know. Maybe like PFF or something along those lines. Here's one thing I like, though. No missed tackles. That's good. That's important. Missed tackles are huge drive killers. So when you miss those tackles, it just continues to play and continues to drive, obviously. So pretty self-explanatory. Let's see. So never came in on a blitz. Here's the thing. So out of those 13 yards, 8 air yards, 5 yards after the catch. So 5 yards after the catch, 2 completions is a lot. You're getting 2 or 3. You're falling forward, basically. That's fall down. That's fall forward territory, as we would call it in the statistic game. Being that most guys are usually 2-3 yards long at least. So you could fall forward and get that. So he's not getting yards of the catch. The ball is being caught. He's immediately making impact and getting there, which also is good for his future potential as a guy that's going to force fumbles. So you can get there when the ball gets there and pop him, hit him unexpectedly, and really get some pop in your hit and tackle correctly or wrap up. Punch the ball out, as Trey White is a specialist at that. Hopefully he can teach Elam and Bedford, of course. That's good, of course. So overall, good game for Kaiir Elam, I'd say. Being targeted 3 times. He could have been targeted more. I would assume that not only himself and long day. Not only himself and Bedford have been targeted more, as we're getting to Bedford's numbers here in a second. But they weren't. So we'll see here. Now we'll jump over to Bedford. So again, remember this number: 3 targets, 2 completions, 13 yards, no missed tackles. Now we jump over to Christian Bedford. Okay. So he played 39 snaps, which is 58% of snaps. As we know, he was a starter as well. He played 1 more special team snap, so he played 21% of snaps, where Elam played 16, I believe, and it was 4 snaps for Bedford and 3 for Elam. Tackles: 1 solo tackle, 2 assists for 3 combined tackles. Oh, and just to make a correction from what we were looking at in Elam's stats, those were 3 solo tackles that added up to a total of 3 tackles, not 4.5. There wasn't 1.5 assist. 3 solo tackles, which I like a lot. That means he can wrap up and tackle, which is good. He's a big physical guy, though. Now let's jump into the advanced stats for Christian Bedford. Okay, so 4 targets, 2 completions. You say to yourself, that's good, right? That's 50% completion. That's 32 yards, however. That's much different. So we got an average on Kaiir Elam, and of course these are small numbers. Well, if we come back and revisit this in 8 weeks, which we will, I will definitely be revisiting this before Trey White comes back to see, because we'll be talking about, if Bedford's playing well or Elam's playing well, and should maybe take Dane Jansen's spot. I don't think about that. So, but we'll go over that anyways, because it's good content, and some people have that opinion or of that opinion. So again, Kaiir Elam, 3 targets, 2 completions, 13 yards, 6.5 yards per completion, 4.3 yards per target. And if we take a look at the advanced defense and fumbles, defense and statistics on Pro Football Reference. For Mr. Bedford, that is 4 targets, 2 completions, 50% completion, 32 yards, 16 yards per completion, 8 yards per target, which is much higher, of course, as you can see. So he was targeted in longer passing distances, which tells me that he probably wasn't covering as well in that game. I'll have to see the footage and the couple completions and the non-completions too to see how his coverage was positively as well. He also had, like I said, he had 3 total tackles, but he also had a missed tackle. I don't like that. I know it's one missed tackle, his first game ever. I'm not harping on it. I'm just saying in general, that's something that I like to try and avoid if possible. Just because of the fact that, like I said, missed tackles are drive killers. Something you want to completely avoid if possible. So I guess if I overall had to give an opinion of what I think to do, and the reason I bring this up is because I'd like to see Kaiir Elam start the next game. They gave Bedford this game. He did play more snaps. He ended up playing. He was a starter, of course, which means something. And he was a starter. He was out there. It wasn't like the starter for one play that he came out that Elam came in. He was a starter for quite a while. He ended up playing 39 snaps on defense. Elam ended up playing 30 snaps. So he played 9 to 10, almost 10 more snaps, which is a good amount. I mean, that's, for the Rams when they were struggling up, that's, another drive. That's a whole other drive or two. So, yeah. I'm debating what I want to get into next. I think I'm going to get into it. I am going to get into it. We're going to talk about Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, and James Cook next, because that's something that's really important to be talked about. And then, so yeah, I want to kind of just go over, this is for our inaugural podcast, just kind of go over the game in general. And then we'll give you know what? We will, yeah. We're going to give you guys a preview of the next game, too. I know it's very early, and you know what? It may be a very small preview, but I'll release another week. Within this week, I'll release another pregame preview as well for the upcoming game, being that it's obviously we had a strange week here with it being Thursday, and the opponent that we're going to play next hasn't even played yet. So it'd be kind of hard to give an accurate pregame of that, give an accurate pregame of a game that has not happened yet. Without, of course, the Titans possibly having more injuries. Anything could happen. Obviously we never wish injury on anybody, but Derrick Henry or someone could get hurt, and that would completely change the odds of the game. Not that I think the Bills are losing anyways on Monday night at home for the home opener after romping the Rams. But yeah. So quick to finish up on the cornerback situation and my taking on it and what I think. I think that we should be starting here at Kaiir Elam next game, see what he's got. His numbers were already better in the small sample size that we have here, and I'm not saying that Christian Bedford isn't as good or better than or is worse than Elam. I don't know enough yet. We've only seen one game, but I think giving Elam the start, being he's a first-round, highly touted prospect cornerback, only makes sense, and not to mention he had better numbers. He never missed tackle. I don't know. Missed tackle sticks out to me. I don't like it. I'm not saying Bedford's bad. He could be an all-pro in by the end of this year or next year for all I know. But I want to see what Elam's got too. It's like a quarterback battle, right? You want to see what one's got and what the other has. So Kaiir Elam is the guy I want to go to. And I think that they're going to give him more snaps next game. So we'll see. I don't know. The assignment for the next game, I guess I'm not doing a full pregame, but the assignment for the next game would be much simpler than we had with Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson, in my opinion. So I gotta tell you what, Cooper Kupp was, his usual self. He's gonna get his. He's gonna eat regardless of who he's going against, no matter what. You can only do so much to. You're never gonna stop them, but can you control them to an extent? Let them, take what you give them, rather than, having them, you taking what they're giving you. I guess in the adverse or the inverse, I guess that'd be. So let's jump into the running backs. In my opinion, we've got one really clear number one running back, and that's Devin Singletary, of course. But let's jump into the numbers here. If this ever wants to load on Google, which it usually doesn't. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, so rushing stats. It's kind of funny because I said, we're going to talk about the running backs, but the top leading rusher for the Bills that last game, to no surprise.
Okay, what the hell's going on here in this? What is Jason Malloy talking about here?
What's up?
What's up, buddy? I wanted to join you because I heard you're talking trash about my Buffalo Bills. Nah, listen, guys, I'm just messing with Jason. I'm out of here a little later, Jason.
Later, dude. So that was Tommy. He is the village idiot. However, no, yeah. So that's Tommy. Of course, he runs the Buffalo Sports Report here, and this great YouTube page we've got going, and really brand, I would say, more at this point with all the stuff we got going on. Stay tuned if you're not already tuned in. We got a lot of good stuff. We're covering really all 4 major sports and then some. You know, we've got wrestling podcast, we got a basketball podcast coming up. We got a lot of stuff going on. So stay tuned. However, jumping into the rushing game again, of course. So Josh Allen, leading rusher, 10 attempts, 56 yards, and 1 tutty. That's what I meant when I said that he was involved in all the touchdowns, because I thought he had a touchdown. I've got him like 2 different fantasy teams on my dynasty team, which was probably the best dynasty pick of our. We started the dynasty league off like 2 or 3 years ago, and definitely the best pick I'd say to this point. However, 10.56, 5.6 yards. That's about what Allen always does. It's always between like 5 and 6 yards. He's usually got like a good amount of attempts. He actually, here's the funny thing: leading rusher, also the leading toucher in rushing the ball. So 10 rushes. Next closest was Singletary, and then Moss is 6, and then Cook with 1. We know how that one went, sadly. Either way, Josh Allen, 10.56, 5.6 average. Longest was a 13-yard rush. I remember that rush. I believe it was one where he did, well, of course, he picked up the first down. It was 13 yards. There was no penalty, so it was 10 yards to down to distance, 10 to distance. But 1 touchdown. Devin Singletary, 8 for 48, averaging 6. So Singletary averages the most, which was 8 rushes for 48 yards, 6 yards per carry, 13 yards was also his longest. No touchdown. Zach Moss, 6 rushes for 15 yards, averaging 2.5 yards a carry with a long rush of 8. So let's do a little math here, very simple math. Okay, so if we take out that 1 8-yard rush, okay, so instead of it being 6 for 15, it would then be 5 for 7. You got 5 rushes for 7 yards. So my math isn't that great, but that's like 1.4. Yeah, that is almost exactly 1.4 yards per rush. That is pitiful, disgusting, sad, and unacceptable. Zach Moss has been a terrible running back. And I'll say it. Yeah, he's been a terrible running back for years. Why he still gets the ball is well beyond me. I don't understand it. I won't understand it. I refuse to understand it. Probably because it's not understandable. It's non-logical. It's nonsensical. There's no reason for that man to ever touch a football in a Buffalo Bills uniform again. I have nothing against the guy. I really like the guy. I do. He's an awesome dude. However, I just don't see what he's doing to benefit us. Now, could he go somewhere else and be successful? Yes. And let me be a little bit more fair, because I came out a little trigger happy there. If we didn't have Devin Singletary, then yes, Zach Moss and James Cook should be splitting carries, because Zach Moss has got, in my opinion, is probably the strongest running back that we have. He's more of a ground and pound guy. He is truly more of a north and south running back, very similar to a Jordan Howard type of running back, where he's not going to be running routes for you. He's going to try and pick up blocks for you, which he can actually do that quite well. He's going to try and pick up, in my opinion, he can try and pick up blocks for you. He's going to run through the A and the B gap. He's not going to be taking outside pitches, which they continue to give him. He's not going to be taking outside handoffs, which they continue to give him. He's just not going to be efficient or successful in that way. You know who is, though? Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary is successful in every way that you try to use him. Run through the A gap, he gets yards. Run through the B gap, he gets yards. He knows how to fall forward. Run him through, running on a pitch to the outside, he's going to get you a couple yards, or at least not lose yards. Unless you're doing what the Bills love to do, and that's running 2 or 3 of the same run plays in a row. Whether they're not back to back, but 3 of the same run plays in the same 6 plays, it's so they know they're watching you make the exact same motions that you made the play prior or the play 2 plays ago of the same formation. It just doesn't make any sense. So Zach Moss, I wish you best of luck. I don't think you're going to be here next year. I just don't see a reason. Coach Ness loves you. You are probably an amazing guy on and off the field, because this team loves you. The coaching staff loves you. Sean McDermott has always spoken highly of you. Any person I've heard, I've never heard a single bad word about you. You also worked with the group that had founded Bills Mafia, and you're doing a podcast of your own, which I'm going to be listening to very soon, because I heard it's pretty good. However, I just don't see it working out here. It's not because you're like it's nothing against your skill. It's just the fact that we have someone that's better right now, Devin Singletary, that really meets what this offense is. And I think when they drafted you, they envisioned a different role than would best work for you. And I think there's a way that works better for you on a different organization in the NFL. And I think you're going to get it. And to be honest with you, if I had to tell you one team I think he would go to and be a real success, it sounds sad, but the New England Patriots, because like that's the way they run. Lots of running backs, lots of different styles. And he's more of a ground and pound guy. I could see him doing really well in New England. There's been former Bills running backs that have done well in New England, and I wouldn't be surprised if the first place he gets picked up, if he ends up getting cut or just released to free agency, if he somehow in talks with New England and ends up signing with New England, I wouldn't be shocked. That's just my take on that. Now, before we get to we'll get to the rest of the not so good, the areas, I'm not going to call it bad, the rest of the areas of improvement. James Cook. I made a tweet, and if I could find it, I would show you, but I should have found it before the show, and I didn't think about it. I made a tweet last year when they not last year, this past draft, when they drafted James Cook, and said, wow, the Bills use another high pick, the highest pick they've used in 3 years. They went 3 with Devin Singletary, 3 with Zach Moss, and 2 with James Cook, and these are the numbers. The picks were third-round pick for Motor Singletary, third-round pick for Zach Moss, and then the second-round pick for James Cook. These are in back-to-back years. Highest pick they've used on a running back since probably would be C.J. Spiller, I think. Yeah, since C.J. Spiller. I can't imagine there's a higher one. There might be. I could be wrong, but since C.J. Spiller. First handoff. It's a nice little, real easy handoff. You get it, and he fumbles the ball. And the first thing I said was, Sean McDermott is not giving that guy the ball again. Maybe he'll bring him back in because it's a high pick, and he did. But I think what brought back in James Cook is, number one, he's a good running back at heart. Or at least we think he hasn't done anything in the NFL yet. So we think he's a good running back. He was good in college, right? But I heard 2 things coming out of college about him. One is that he is like Porsche. He is the guy that could be injured because of his size, number one. And number 2, he sometimes has an issue holding onto the ball. And I'm not sure that materialized in college stats. That's just what I heard from, I believe it might have been the Draft Network. They gave me that scouting take. However, I don't know. I don't see a way that anybody's taking carries from, and James Cook, Zach Moss, Josh Allen is taking carries from Devin Singletary. Of course, Josh Allen is different. We would love to take away carries from Josh. It's just not going to happen at this point. There was a good tweet I saw from Charlie Gross, and it was mentioning how, people really want to do keep hearing the narrative about, we want to take handoffs, or not handoffs, but carries away from Allen. We want to give them to Singletary, and we want to maybe throw the ball a little bit more. It's just not going to happen. It's part of their offense. It is what it is. He hasn't been hurt to this point. Knock on wood that he's not hurt at any point in the future. I just don't see it changing. It works. It works well. And the guy is a damn brick shithouse. I mean, he's huge. I'm not really too worried about it. Anyways, let's jump into the good. So James Cook, you're going to get an opportunity. Sean McDermott did let him back into the game. McDermott had a lot of good things to say about when he did come back into the game, being able to prove himself and make sure that's important, that he let the guy come back in and prove himself rather than just letting him sit and fester with that until the next play and then not having a chance to correct it or redeem himself or make up for that mistake. And he did, from what they all said. I didn't really notice much because he didn't get the ball again, of course. He didn't have a receiving target, so he didn't get the ball again. But McDermott's cool with it. I guess we're cool with it too then. We have to be, right? So anyways, Devin Singletary. 8 rushes, 48 yards, 6 yards per carry, 13-yard longest run. Devin Singletary in the passing game, 2 receptions, 14 yards, 8 for the longest yard. So that is a total of 62. So let's give the touches. 11 touches for – nope, that's not 11 touches. That's 10 touches. 10 touches for 62 yards. So 10 touches, he's averaging 6.2 yards a touch. I'll take that all day. That means 2 touches is a first down. And that's really how it is with Devin Singletary. You give him the ball one. So you run the ball on first down, you get 5 or 6 for them, right? Make a pass play. All right, you don't get anything. You got 4 yards left to get. He's going to get you the first down most of the time and get you an extra yard or 2, maybe 3 or 4 above that as well. So he's an automatic 5 yards, in my opinion, 4 or 5 yards. And the stats show that. Like, I don't think he's had a year where he's averaged less than 4. He's been really solid. And for some reason, I'll mention people, they're always trying to replace him. Well, oh, no, it's a different style. We don't need a different style. Devin Singletary can be the 3-down back. He can be a 3-down back that plays 80% of snaps and give 20% of snaps to somebody else. Now we've obviously got James Cook and Zach Moss. They've built this running core. It's a third round pick, and a second round pick. they're going to use James Cook at this point. There's no going back to it. You can't just be like, all right, well, now he's our 3-down running back. We're going to occasionally mix in James Cook. Not when you spend a second-round pick on a guy when you're in the middle of a championship window. No. So that's not the plan there. But I digress. I almost don't want to even talk about it because I know that they're not going to use Singletary the way I'd like to see him used, and I think he'd be best to be used. And I hope that they do figure out at some point. But at this point, I'm starting to think that Singletary's going to go somewhere else, and he'll be a really good back and a top 10 back. And people, even though we may have a successful running back, say we don't, though. I mean, that would really suck, right? Singletary leaves, and we've got James Cook and Zach Moss, and they're not going to spend another high pick on a running back, and it doesn't work out for either of those two for some reason, But I digress. All right, last thing I want to talk about here before I give I'm going to give a couple betting picks, actually. I'm going to give 2 or 3 betting picks for tomorrow. We'll go over that. Bills fan 1970, I do agree with that as well. You said Singletary. Bills fan 1970 says Singletary is RB1, period. I 100% agree with that. That's what I just got done saying. It's good that we agree. So, let's jump into the exciting stuff. We have the somewhat not so good, the bad, really areas of improvement, the good, the nice, areas we're doing well in, which is Singletary, and now we go to the great, the awesome, the effing fantastic, and that is Josh Allen. Josh Allen had himself a hell of a night. I went back and watched. I saw 3 bad passes. One was the interception. I don't want to say the interception because there was 2. One was the second interception because the first interception was not in any way on Josh Allen, and it almost was like he was getting some kind of Mahomes-like love from was it Collinsworth? It was more Tirico, but Tirico and Collins were saying, "Oh, it wasn't his fault. That was McKenzie's fault. That was McKenzie's fault. They just kept mentioning it, kept talking about it. I was like, all right, we get it, guys. You don't got to give him Mahomes love. We don't care. Not that Mahomes cares either, but either way, he was 26 for 31, 26 completions on 31 attempts, 83.9 passing percentage of accuracy. That's great, of course. 297 yards, just shy of 300, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 122.9 quarterback rating. You will take that all day. That is money. 10, and we already talked about it, but 10 attempts for 56 yards, 5.6 average, 13-yard longest run and a touchdown through the ground for Josh Allen. And let's talk about who he fed the ball to. He also had 3 touchdowns, like I said, with 2 interceptions. It really should be 3-1. Brings QBR up. He'd probably be over $130, near $140, which is really good, of course. So Josh Allen already starting out his MVP season in the Buffalo Bills Super Bowl season, knock on wood, with a bang, a signature win already in week 1. But who he passed the ball to? Let's start from lowest to highest. Dawson Knox, 1 reception for 5 yards. I don't know where Dawson Knox was. He was on the field. Was he just not winning his routes? Was he not winning his one-on-ones? Was he not getting open in space? I don't know. I really don't. Devin Singletary. I look forward to seeing more Dawson Knox. I think we will see some more Dawson Knox in the next game. We'll talk about that in the episode later this week before the Bills game on Monday. But I think that will be the case. Devin Singletary, 2 catches for 14 yards. No touchdowns. Isaiah McKenzie, 2 receptions for 19 yards and 1 touchdown. Of course, he had that, I believe, it was a 12-yard touchdown. He had that 12-yard touchdown from Josh Allen. Probably should be 3 catches for whatever that was. Was it 3 for 20 or something-ish, 26-ish, 27 total. But he dropped that 1 ball that was picked off, unfortunately. Zach Moss did get active in the pass game. Strange. It's nothing I agree with him doing. I think he should be running the ball solely north and south, but I think he could be successful in that too. But if he's working the pass game, whatever reason they're using him there, then fine. 6 catches for 21 yards, 3.5 yards per catch. Jamison Crowder, 3 for 28 only, but they were important catches, and they were catches I remember, so they were solid, and he played his role well, right? Not exactly what we're used to seeing out of the slot receiver being, fan favorite Cole Beasley, of course. I like Cole Beasley. I think he played his role well. I think he probably still could play his role well, but we got Jamison Crowder, and it's for the best at this point, and it's working out. So I like Crowder. I like that addition. I thought it was a pretty underrated addition around the league. It's obviously us and Bills Mafia. We talked about it quite often. However, it wasn't talked about much around the league, of course, because James Crowder has bounced around a little bit. Washington to New York and out here. The next one, this is the one I really like because it's Gabe Davis starting to have that breakout season already. Because if he does what he did here, and he say he had this game every game, which you can't have that. You can't always have. The catches could be slightly up, but see, as a second wide receiver in an offense, you can't always have. In this, let me clarify. As the second wide receiver in an offense with an already elite top 10 tight end, in my opinion, as well as 1 really good running back option and a couple solid running back options, as well as a running quarterback who's probably the best quarterback in the league, versatility-wise with his arms and his legs, you're not always going to get more than 4 catches. But he had 4 catches for 88 yards and 1 touchdown, including a 47-yarder. 47-yard touchdown. So if he can do that throughout the year, for the rest of the year, he's getting like 1,400 yards or something crazy like that. And what would that be catch-wise? 440, like 60 or 70, 60-ish. So if Gabe Davis finished the season with 60 catches, 1,400 yards, and 16 touchdowns, that's insanity. Of course, if you take the same pace for this game for Stephon Diggs, he's like breaking the receiving yards record, the receptions record, I think, and the touchdowns record. Along with Gabe Davis, they both had 1, of course. But either way, Gabe Davis having a great start to his year. Stephon Diggs, 8 catches for 122 yards, 15.3 a catch, 1 touchdown. He was smoking and burning Jalen Ramsey all night. On that last touchdown, you saw him and Josh kind of go down and tell Ramsey, you are not as good as us, basically. I don't know exactly what he said word for word, but I imagine it's something to go along. You're not as good as us. You suck. Look at the scoreboard. Screw you, So that's what I'm assuming, right? Not sure, though, right? Either way, beautiful game on offense for the Bills. Let's jump into real quick before we wrap up here. We are about 35 minutes in now. Before we head out, we are going to talk a little bit about the defense real quick. Nice night for the defense. Overall, 10 points all in the first half. So the first half was okay, of course, but nothing in the second half, which is good. And part of that had to do with us continually getting points and getting more ahead of the Rams, so them having to take more risky plays and more shot plays that might not result in anything or might result in touchdown. But we played well in those plays regardless, right? So the leader in tackles was, no surprise here, Tremaine Edmonds. He's usually the leader in tackles. He had 7. Matt Milano was next place, and he had 5. Actually, he was tied with Teron Johnson for 5 as well, which is very good. I like Teron Johnson's game. He played a good game. He had a couple of moments where I was like, it could have been a better play there, but it's great. We will save the best for last with this as well. But let's go over the sacks. Okay, so from bottom to top, Boogie Basham had a sack. That was great. Greg Russo had a sack. That was great. Jordan Phillips, AJ Espinosa had a sack and a half. Also good to see him starting to do something, being the second-round pick and like a highly touted guy by us. Jordan Phillips, sack and a half, and I have to tell you, it didn't surprise me at all. People are like, oh, he came back and he was this, and he had a sack and a half. That's great. It doesn't surprise me. Jordan Phillips, I knew he was going to do well here when he came back. He's done his best here. It's been said time and time again. You will be the best version of yourself here in Buffalo. It's been echoed by the coaching staff, the players as well, and the fans now too. I see it. And last, we wrap the show with this. Von Miller, 4 tackles, 2 sacks. And you got to just hope that this isn't just some kind of like, I'm just getting back in my old team and trying to show them I still got it, type thing. I think this is something that we're going to see continued on. And I texted someone, Tommy actually, or maybe it was Tommy or it might have been somebody else. So this will be the best 3-year deal. I think one of the best free agent tight end deals on a 3-year period, value-wise, that you'll ever see. And you tell people around the league, you got them for 6 years. They don't understand contracts or math, essentially, or reading comprehension either, because it's pretty clearly a 3-year deal, and it's got some outs in there. Of course, there's some money that's been moved around and navigated, but that's what it is. And you know what? If I was hoping that Von Miller would get us 10 to 11 sacks a year, for the next 3 years, I'm thinking more if he's performing like this. I mean, this sky's the limit. This dude looks like he's in great shape. He's like in his prime, it looks like. So yeah. Well, guys, don't want to keep blabbering on here too much longer. It was a beautiful Bills win on opening night, not only for ourselves and for the Bills and for Bills Mafia, but for the NFL entirely on its 101st season. Again, that final score: Buffalo 31, Los Angeles 10. Beating the Rams 31-10 on banner night and ring night when they get their rings and their banner hung up. And I thought that would deflate us, and it didn't. I was wrong. I'm happy that we won. Let's first get into a couple picks tomorrow. I don't want to forget this, of course, because this is important. This is all part of it, right? As you notice, the name here is Backdoor Bills Talk, like a backdoor cover. And I'm going to give you 3 picks for tomorrow that I like. You know what? I'm going to give you 2 picks tomorrow that I like, and 1 pick that is being floated that I'm a little hairish on. I might throw a couple bucks, couple buckaroos, couple clams on the underdog. They're not saying it's a winner, but I throw a couple clams on the doggy. So the 2 picks that I really like. Now, a lot of times in the NFL, it's not, you can't just be like, I like the 49ers to beat the Bears because that's an easy one to pick. Well, yeah, the book knows that, and they're going to give you minus 300 odds, and every $100 you put down, you're going to win like $30. So you got to pick smart matchups or parlay. I do a lot of parlaying with the NFL because I have two really big favorites, either minus 300, minus 400. That's going to add up to minus 180. I'm still going to win back $60, $70 on $100 I put down. So that's the way to bet smart. Bet smart, not hard. It's a saying that you can say anywhere. Anyways, the games I've got tomorrow, I believe they're both in the 1 o'clock window. Yes. So I like the Ravens over the Jets. The Ravens are going to stomp the Jets. I'm not even worried about it. The Ravens have been kind of slouted and slanted this entire offseason by the media. Did they get a ton better? No, but I think they've got a really good team. They still got Lamar Jackson, former MVP, and I think is still in the conversation for MVP every year because of how well and just how amazing he plays the position of quarterback, and being able to kind of accumulate and bring in with his legs as well. Probably the most elite runner we've seen at running back. And I was around for Michael Vick. He's better than him, in my opinion. However, I've got the Ravens winning. That's my first pick. My second pick is, however, the 49ers at the Bears. So let me give you a good preview of how I've done that. I put the bid down myself. Let's see if I can pull it up. If you parlay those two picks, of course, if you're not going to take them independently, you're not going to make any money. It doesn't make any sense to waste your money doing it that way. So let's go to the NFL. We're going to go ahead and put our bets down, and our bets are going to go down to the Ravens and the 49ers. 49ers are minus 310. The Ravens are minus 310. That adds to minus 134. You put $100 on that, and you get that. That is what you get right there. So as you can see, $100 pays out $74. I would take that bet, actually. I just did take that bet. No, I just took that bet. So, as you guys can see, it's a good way to win money. That's what I'm doing. Now, the favorite that I'm seeing that I don't know if I like is Miami being favored to win this game, Patriots versus Dolphins. I don't know if I like that. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not picking that one because that's the easy one that I was going to do. This is the one I'm taking, and it's a dog. It's not a huge dog, but it's a dog nonetheless, and probably a team a lot of people think are going to stop. We've got the Jacksonville. It's that Sunday at 1 o'clock. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Washington Commanders. I'm taking the Jacksonville Jaguars, T-Law, our old friend Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, and new running back, as he didn't get to play his rookie season last year due to a Liz Frank injury, I believe, Travis Etienne. I am taking the Jaguars to win that game. And here's the thing. I'm also taking them to cover. I'm taking a minus 2.5 on the reverse backdoor. Minus 2.5, you can get them at plus 220. I'm taking it. They're winning by a field goal or more. So, book it. Those are my picks. I've got the Ravens and the 49ers parlayed. That gives you minus 134 odds. I got the Jaguars at plus 130, but I'm also taking them at plus 220 on the minus 2.5 inverse, or the adverse, or the opposite of the actual money line, which is Commanders minus 2.5. If you want to take plus 2.5 and you don't feel so great on it, the Jaguars, go ahead, but I think they're winning that game, and they're going to win it by 3 or more. So that's what I've got for tonight, folks. This was Backdoor Bills Talk. Be sure to come join us again next Saturday at 8:30. We're going to cover the Titans game coming up, and maybe we'll have some more fun stuff to talk about. We'll see how our bets did, and we'll give you some new bets for the upcoming week, being next week. Enjoy opening football Sunday. You have yourself a good night, folks.